Okay, it took a while, but I'm now done with the setup for the trying to survive blight chests. I did have an original setup at some other point, but I realized that it didn't really work. So this is the setup there is now. I could have gone further, but any further than this is just going to take hours. Every single round takes forever. So, let's see. The first thing of the build, if there's any of the pride cards in the deck, you can just discard them, and they'll be out the hand for like however long you need, basically. Then, if you just draw the full hand with scroll, you can then use Madness to make every card free. Then, Nightmare to duplicate the second Nightmare. Then the second Nightmare to duplicate Wraith form. Then play it, so first time that enemies are dealing damage, you're completely safe. Then, duplicate Nightmare, duplicate Storm, and then duplicate Wraith form. Then, you play Storm, then triple Wraith form, and now, from this point on, you can be constantly playing Storms every single round, and every time you play Storms, your damage increases on the next Storm. Now, it would take an extremely long time to stack 999 Storm, but it doesn't matter if it can stack above that, because I tested and Thunderstrike can go far above 999. So, as long as that can go above 999, it can just completely ignore any cap of anything else. Basically, like, these enemies, even if they would have infinite intangible and max block, it wouldn't even matter, because I could just stack Thunderstrike so high that it just completely bypasses their block and healing and everything. It would take a long time, but it would be consistent. I'll just continue showing the rest of the setup and how ridiculous it gets. It gets to a point where it starts breaking through their block just with the lightning orbs before you even get to the Thunderstrike. I'm sure there's probably a faster way to do this, but this is just the way that I found from what somebody else suggested. Also, I could show trying to beat some fights where the enemies continue to have intangible, but it will take many more cycles because I have to wait for hauntings to show up, the blight chest blight, like another like 3 or more times, which it only has like a chance of showing up among all the other blights. And while I'm mentioning that, I should probably mention how this bypasses each of the blights. So, I always start with 2 energy, so if I absolutely have to, I can play 2 of the pride cards. The first energy coming from the lantern relic, the second energy coming from the plasma orb that I start every combat with. Uh, then, uh, the scatterbrain blight, doesn't matter because I'm drawing innate and bottled cards on the first hand anyway, so I can just draw all the cards I need and then scroll to just fill the hand anyway. Then, ancient augmentation, you can see eventually this just stacks beyond what it can, like beyond what the enemy's regeneration and block can do, so that doesn't even matter after a bit. Well, I didn't even actually get to use Thunderstrike, but you could see there it stacked over 200 times, so I didn't even need to use it. Anyway, next ones. So, the Jurian, it'll mean that your max health is 1, but when you're always intangible, and when you're, like when you're basically invincible, you just don't need health beyond the 1 health, obviously, otherwise you'll just die instantly. But anyway, the next one, obviously hauntings, this whole setup is built around trying to get through the hauntings blight, because the enemies take far, far less damage. And then finally, the last blight I can take is Twisting Mind. And now, the thing with this is, even though after a bit I'll be using the ink bottle just by playing cards, I can just use one more card use to just get rid of the whatever one of the status cards that come into the hand. So that's not a problem. And then the final one that I can't take, otherwise basically any build is just completely undoable, is the curses, where every time you fight a boss, it puts some amount of curses into your deck. The reason that doesn't work is you would have to build around curses, and most ways of building around curses will be stopped by Time Eater, because you'll play, like, was it 12 cards, and then it will just skip to his turn and he'll kill you. And there's no way you can sustainably get intangible enough to fight him, because it's not like you can draw a specific card. Bottled cards don't get priority over innate. Yeah. The setup is so slow, I've resorted to going to any question mark or bonfire tile things, but it's the fastest thing I could find. I think that's about it. This was more of just like showing that it's possible to do this. It's not showing the extent of how much it can handle, because obviously, as I said, this has taken, what is it? It says like 12 hours over like a few days. I don't think I can really go beyond this without just basically doing this for like weeks. So, yeah. Bye.